Welcome back to my kitchen, everybody. So today we are talking about oregano, and I wanted to share, I've been dehydrating today, and so I just thought I would share with you the 7 super easy steps on dehydrating this for yourself. And oregano, it's an amazing plant. It's a perennial, it is super easy to grow. I mean, once it's established, you literally just like harvest it and maybe water it once in a while, and it really even does fine with dry soil. For a time anyway, but it's delicious. It smells so good. My house smells amazing right now, by the way. But it's used in Italian cooking, Mediterranean cooking. You can use it in marinades. You can make dressings and sauces with it. It's used in so many things. It's just a really great plant. If you're going to do any of those kinds of cookings, or if you use a lot of Italian seasonings, you can make your own, and this is one of the herbs that are in that. So, like I said, there are 7 super easy steps. The first is simply to cut. You just cut it, and then you want to rinse it off. And so you can do that, just, hold all your stems and rinse them under the sink, or you can get a bowl of water and kind of dip it in and swish it around. But you just basically want to make sure there's just no dirt or anything in it. And then, since we are going to be dehydrating, the whole goal of dehydrating is to get rid of moisture. So you don't want to put more moisture in here than you have to. So once you rinse it, you do want to dry it. You just pat dry it, and then maybe let it sit out on the counter and just dry in the open air for a little bit. And then you simply place it on your dehydrator trays. And you can do this 2 ways. You can actually just put the whole stem right on there, and you just have your trays. I use a Ninja Foodie, so mine has these stackable trays. I know each dehydrator is built a little bit differently, but anyway, you could literally just place the stem right on there, and because of the stem, it's not going to fall through. Or if you prefer to dehydrate it with just the leaves and not on the stem, it's up to you. Then you can use these tray liners, and it's so easy. You literally just hold it and you pull down the stem, and the leaves are off. So you can do it either way. The stems will stay hard when you dehydrate it, so it's just as easy to come off that way or do it this way. So whichever way you want to do it is perfectly fine. And then you're going to just take your whole tray and you're going to place it into your dehydrator, and you'll dehydrate at 95 degrees. For mine, I set it for 10 hours, but I checked it after 6. Because what happens, since the heat is up here where this metal plate is, what happens is it actually will dehydrate from the top down. And so the top leaves will get done first and the bottom ones won't. And I don't want to overcook, kind of, they do actually overcook. But I don't want to do any, like, over dehydrate the top ones. So I check them, I take those out, and I put them into, we use reusable plastic bags. So I just put it into one of those, and then continue to work my way down. So then the next level will dry, I'll take that out, then the next one, and until it's done. If you were to do it in the oven, you would also want to use the lowest setting in the oven. Most ovens only go down to like 170 or 180. So you do want to leave the door open on that, just not fully, but just leave it cracked to try to get that temperature down a little bit. And the reason is that the lowest setting really does retain the color and the flavor better. It'll still taste good, and it'll still be way better than store-bought, but the dehydrator really is a little bit better. But if you don't have one, it's fine. You can use an oven and it's still going to be great. So in the oven, again, you want to do it on the lowest setting. Just spread everything out like on a cookie sheet. You want to put it in for an hour, and if it's not done at that point, then just check every 15 minutes after that. The thing with the oven is you do have to kind of stay on it. You do have to be watching it. Whereas the dehydrator, you can really, there's more wiggle room. You can leave it for a while in there. And then the way to know when it's ready, I'm going to hold this up close here, and I hope you can hear it, but you want to be listening for this. So you see that? It's all crumbly, and you can hear how dry it is. It's just crumbling apart. Oh my gosh. That smells amazing. So, funny story with that. So, my teenager, probably like a lot of everybody else's, hides in her room quite often. And she actually came out of her room today because she thought I was cooking pizza, and she thought it smelled so good because the oregano just made the house smell like Italian seasoning, like pasta sauce. So, but anyway, so that's what you're looking for when it's done. It'll completely just dry and crumble like that. And then, like I said, I put every layer into here, and this is the next step is to crush it. There's a bunch of ways you can do this. There's really no, I mean, you can use your hands if you want to, just like I did that into the bowl. If you wanted it to be really fine, you could use a blender or a food processor and just process it just for a short time. You could use a muddler if you have a muddler. I always thought those were pretty neat. I don't have one, but you could use one. Or you could use a rolling pin. So I just put it in the sandwich bag here and roll it, and that's it. And then I'll mix it around a little bit, maybe flip it over to the other side. And so this breaks it up. And if there are any big pieces that are left, then I'll just break those with my fingers as well, just like I did these. Actually, I'm gonna blend those. Go ahead and blend that with it. And then I wanted to show you the difference side by side between homemade oregano and store-bought. It's pretty amazing. So this is a bowl of store-bought oregano that I'm currently using, and it's kind of brown. It still has flavor and it still has some fragrance, but not nearly what this is. And then this is mine. Look how different that is. Look how green this is. I wish you could smell it. It's like, I mean, it's indescribable just how different it is. So store-bought's not awful. If it's what you have, it's what you have. But if you can make homemade, I definitely suggest it. I started with just one plant, and like I said, it's super easy. It's a perennial, so it is in my perennial garden. But it's literally required no maintenance whatsoever. And I started dehydrating it last year, and I had enough seasoning for a while, but I decided this year I was gonna up it. And that's pretty much how we do everything here on the micro farm. We try to start small, build skill, build knowledge about what it is that we're doing, and then step it up if we choose to, or if we decide it didn't work out, we've not invested too much and we can back out of it, it's fine. So I did really enjoy it. We started with just the one plant, but this year I added 2 more. So the goal is that this year I'll be able to make as many of my own Italian seasoning as possible. I use that in a lot of my cooking. I grew up in upstate New York, which is a very Italian area. So most of the cooking I grew up with was very Italian. So I use this seasoning in a lot of things. So I'm hoping to make as much of my own as possible to get me through at least till springtime, because you can use this fresh. It doesn't have to be dried. Something to note is that dried seasonings are much more potent than fresh. So if you use fresh, you might need to use a little bit more than a recipe calls for, because it usually calls for dry. But if it's a recipe that does call for a fresh seasoning and you end up only having dry, you want to use half the amount because the dry is very strong. So just to repeat those steps, so you want to cut, rinse, dry, place on your trays, dehydrate, and then crush, and then, oh, and the last thing, I missed this one, store in an airtight container. So I'm just using for now, until I eventually will need a bigger one, and I have those up here, but these are just Amazon pantry organizers, but they are airtight. They're a very easy lock. You do have to kind of pull them a little bit because they do close and seal really well. But it's got a like a rubber strip around it, and it closes tightly in here, and then you lock it closed. And it's got a label on it. Mine says chia seeds right now, if you saw that, because that's what I had in here last. But I'm gonna store all my oregano in here until I have this full enough to have a bigger one. You do want to store it in a cabinet that's kind of away from the heat a little bit and out of light, and that'll help preserve it a little bit longer, because this should last up to 3 years if you preserve it well. The other thing is you don't want to continuously open and close this, because that will continue to let moisture and air in, and you want to prevent that so you can prolong use of this. So what I do is these seasonings here behind me, these are the ones that I use regularly. So I'll take my, my bulk storage, and I'll refill just my small ones. And that way I'm only opening these once in a while, just every several months or so. So I think that's it. I think that's everything you need to know on how to preserve, dehydrate, use oregano. I really encourage you to try it. It's very, very simple, and it is so rewarding, and it smells so good. It tastes so much better than store-bought too. If you do have any questions, just reach out. I'm available. Ask, comment, message, whatever's easiest for you. But my goal here is just to get you started making stuff on your own. All I didn't have to use anything special. I literally used a Ninja Foodie and a rolling pin. Anyone can do it.